So that two diseases are one is tennis elbow and other is the ganglion. There's two diseases which are in your syllabus. That is the disease in the section of disease of tendon and disease of the ligaments. Okay, so we just directly jump to the tennis elbow. So how many of you know the Sachin Tendulkar? If you know Sachin Tendulkar, then you must have heard the tennis elbow. This is the most common disorders which affects the elbow joints. Most commonly found in the tennis player, that's why the name is suggests tennis elbow. And it may found also in the person who have excessive use of the elbow, just like the housewife, some cricketers, artists like the violin players, which excessive use their elbow, especially for the extension or forceful extension. Because the tennis player, when we play the shot, this one, so there is a forceful extension of that elbow joint. Cricketer also do that, that cover drive and all the shots, so they have to play the shots against the resistance, means they force the elbow, uh, they move extension of the elbow against the resistance. So these disease occurs in this can may occurs in that person who have the use of their elbow against the resistance, most commonly in the tennis player, and may also found in the other sports, just like the cricketers and other sports too, along with some uh, the violin players, because they, when they play violins, they excessive use their elbows. And it's a housewife due to doing some cleaning and all that process, washing clothes and all that. So what is tennis elbow? So tennis elbow is nothing, just happen the condition, the painful condition in the external epicondyle, lateral epicondyle of the uh, hand. Okay, so this lateral epicondyle of the humerus, this is the center of the pain. Patients have the pain and weakness in the muscles of the forearm. Okay, so here is that these things develops due to, mainly due to that inflammatory procedure at the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Along with this, some other conditions, just like the that radiohumeral bursitis, tendinitis, epicondylitis, that ripping of the synovial fringe, that synovial membrane may be damaged, that may be the trauma causing, followed by the periostesis, that means the inflammation of the periosteum at the lateral epicondyle, and maybe the compression or the damage of that radial nerve. So all these conditions collectively or the separately may cause the condition tennis elbow. So the tennis elbow is the condition where is the pain in the elbow, especially in the lateral aspect. Okay, medial aspect, there is a different disease that is called Wolfer's elbow, but the pain is in the lateral epicondyle, and then it is called that uh, tennis elbow. So these are few conditions which may produce the tennis elbow, that is the inflammation at the epicondyle, in the epicondylitis, inflammation in the tendon. Naveen, stop your audio. So these are the conditions which causes the tennis elbow. This is the pathology. Now that comes to the clinical features that mostly that patients of the middle age group are that having these problems, and the onset of disease is usually uh, insidious, and that means that disease not occurs acute conditions. Patient may starting pain with little and then gradually that pain increases. Okay, so that develop, that's why the main cause of that chronicity of disease is there, that because initially when the patient feels very little pain, then he just ignore that pain and continue the movement of that that elbow joint, and he or she just continue their work. That's why that later on that disease become more severe. So initially the condition is usually that progressive condition is insidious. Rarely it happens suddenly in any patients. Okay, so the pain and the pain ranges from that mild discomfort to the acute pain. That is very less very less patients suffer acute pain. Most of the patient feels that mild discomfort, mild pain, and they may feel the weakness in the muscles of the forearm, and uh, that pain usually occurs not during the flexion. The pain usually occurs at the extension movement, just like the closing the door, driving motorcycle means the person hold the handle, so continues the hand in the extension position. Or if that extension all the function which include the extension of the elbow joint, that is causes the means on the extension of the elbow joint there is the pain in the elbow. And later on, after few periods, progressively the patient may feel there the his or her that weakness in the forearm muscles. So this is the presentation of the tennis elbow. Now comes to the examination, how you examine the patient of the tennis elbow. And the patient comes with a history of pain at the lateral of the epicondyle, means pain in the lateral side of the elbow, and that which give the history of gradual presentation of the pain. And the pain usually occurs during the full extension of the elbow, not due to the flexion. And patient may have the history of that above condition, just like patient may be the tennis player or that violin player or the housewife. So the means or the any work where he or she has to use here his or her elbow continuously. So these type of the history you may found on the examination. There is a no visible abnormality present in the elbow joint. On the inspection, everything is normal. On the movement, flexion movement is absolutely normal. There is no discomfort, no pain on the movement or flexion of the elbow joint. While during the full extension of the elbow joint, after the extension, there is the little discomfort or pain at the lateral epicondyle. So where is the little lateral epicondyle? This is the lateral epicondyle. This is the humerus, this is the humerus, this is the lateral epicondyle, this is the medial epicondyle. So these are two epicondyles. So this is the part, this should be the most tenderness part in the patient of the tennis elbow, while you have while the complete extension of the elbow. So when the patient complete extend the elbow, then there is the tenderness at the lateral epicondyle. Okay, epicondyle of that elbow joint. Then next, if you means if some patient which has less severe, then may at that may not patient may not able to tell the exact site of that the pain, but he just feel the weakness in the forearm muscles and little discomfort in the elbow. So the in that patient you do one maneuver, that is just the extend full extension of the elbow joint, and ask the patient to that pronate his hand. Pronate, this is the supination. This is the pronation. So in the pronation position, ask the patient to that to dorsiflex his hand against the resistance. Means you ask the patient to dorsiflex the hand and just keep the hand like, then you hold his hand and ask the patient to elevate this hand, okay, against resistance. You just hold the hand and ask the patient to dorsiflex that hand. So in during this maneuver, patient may feel that increased pain at the lateral epicondyle. So this is the positive test in the patient of the tennis elbow. Other any, this is the only examination which can elicit the pain in the conditions. There is no investigation for this. Means that if you do the x-ray, everything will be normal, because there is the only inflammation, the chronic inflammation of that epicondyle. So nothing, and the bony tissue is absolutely normal, muscles is absolutely normal. So you can't have any finding in the x-ray. So x-ray is absolutely waste in these conditions. No need to do any x-ray or ultrasound. You will find nothing. Only the history and the clinical examination is enough to diagnose the case of the tennis elbow. Now how to manage this? So there is two type of management: one conservative management and the surgical management. Surgical management is rarely required. Conditions may be successfully managed by the conservative management. First thing which includes in the conservative management is that stop the using of that means you have to uh, advise the patient that the condition is usually self-limiting. If the patient is stop using his elbow, uh, or the overuse of the elbow, he or she has to use the elbow for the daily routine work. But if the patient is working, then he or she have to stop their work for the 3 to 4 week or 6 week. So to give the complete rest of that elbow joint, that tissue, so that inflammation that causes the reduce in the inflammations. If the patient is not if the patient asks to keep the hand in a rest, so it is very difficult for the patient to keep the hand in rest, because if the patient hand is freeze, then the movement is usually happen. So better you can give some splint or the braces. So these are the braces which can advise to the patient, which support the elbow in the rest position also, and keep the elbow in the rest position. So it improves the faster healing of that tissue. And this is the that one type of the splint, cock up splint. This is splint means the you so suppose this is the hand, and during the extension, when the patient you forcefully extend the elbow, means there's two compartment of muscles in the forearm: flexor compartment and extensor compartment. So due to the when the extensor compartment comes in the unrest or comes in the tension, that causes the tension over the epicondyles, and that causes the pain, that increase that that produce hindrance in the healing of the tissue. So you have to do that extensor compartment should be in the absolute rest and tension free. So if you immobilize the hand or with some braces or the splint in the condition where it is completely tension free. So in this condition, in the that wrist is little dorsiflexed, dorsiflexed. In that condition, this compartment, this extensor compartment muscles comes in the absolute rest and tension free. So it gives immense time to healing of that tissue at the external epicondyle. So this is the splint. Means you have to this is the position. Cock ups means you have to just give the little this is the normal position, just give little dorsiflexion and hold the hand like this, and this should be in the straight, and this should be at this angle, and hold this you have to hold the hand in this position only. So this is the brace. You can see that this the braces which come, just ask the patient to wear daily, and no need to wear at the sleeping time. Just when the patient wake up from bed, just wear the braces, and whole day he or she have to wear it, and at the night time, bedtime, just remove it. No need to wear at the sleeping time. So it gives the complete rest in the muscles of the extensor compartment, so give the enough time to the healing for that inflammation in the that tissue in the external epicondyle. So, and then elbow support braces we already discussed, and there's some physiotherapy is also helpful to that gives that when the tissue get inflamed, and the healing gets after healing, that tissue, the adhesions are there, so that may causes that limitation in the movement. So with the physiotherapy, that movements can be uh, achieved up to the enough angle. And so physiotherapy is also helpful in some conditions, and in some conditions that injection may also given, that is the called injection therapy. So in the injection therapy, the three medicines are there: one hydrocortisone, second hyaluronidase, and third is the novocaine. So mix it these medicines and make 2 ml suspension of all this: 50 mg hydrocortisone, 1000 unit hyaluronidase, and 2% novocaine in the 2 ml injection, and give the injection at the most tender part of the elbow, that is external epicondyle. You just to identify the site and give the injection at that part only. Okay, so 2 to 3 sittings may require after the 2 to 3 weeks. So that may also help very much to so there are three drugs: hydrocortisone is the steroid, and hyaluronidase is the enzyme which causes the uh, which exceed the that absorption of this hydrocortisone. I know pain is the that that xylocaine means that is the analgesics. That anesthetics. So these drugs causes that reduce that inflammation. That the hydrocortisone is a steroid. Steroids are the best anti-inflammatory drugs. So these drugs causes that this drug causes the in high concentration. We just give the drug at the site of that inflammation, so that tissue gets uh, reduces the inflammation very quickly, and patient may get relief. And patient after two to three sittings, patient may be cured completely. One short wave therapy, that is kind of that kind of the ultrasound. This is that the physiotherapist with the machine will release the short wave. So the short wave therapy is kind of the ultrasound. It also produces some kind of that healing at the muscles and that tendon. So this is also maybe useful. And in as the Ayurveda students, that Snehan Swedan, that is the Ushna Swed, that is Upanaha means when you use some drug along with that wet cloth, or that dough, or that some leaves with a snehan oil, and apply that may also helpful. And Agni Karma is also beneficial, have some beneficial effects in the condition of the tennis elbow. 2 to 3 setting may require for that Agni Karma in the of the Agni Karma in the tennis elbow. So this condition is equally beneficial, and some Vatanasak drugs may be give for the internal use. So this tennis elbow condition may be successfully treated by the complete Ayurvedic treatment also. And the next comes to the surgical management. So usually the surgical management is rarely required, but most of the condition is self-limiting. If the patient is stop using means just to think and give the rest of his or her elbow and stop doing that forceful extension of the elbow joint. And condition may sometimes self-limiting also, or some medical that these medical the conservative management treat the patient successfully. But in few conditions that the conservative treatment may not enough to cure the patient, to make the patient pain free, and recurrence may be also there. So in that condition, when there is a permanent damage in the tendon or in the epicondyle, there's some tissue is permanently damaged. In that conditions, that surgical treatment may require. So what we do in the surgical management, you can see in the picture, just to simply incise the open the epicondyle and incise that tendon and remove all the dead and dead tissue, that degenerated tissue from the tendons as well as from the epicondyles, just to remove all the damaged tissue, and again just to repair that tendon, and again suture at the epicondyles. Just this is surgery. And after this surgical management, patient may require long time, that recovery time may be extensive, because when you operate the patient, then you have to fix the arm for that 4 weeks. After that 3 to 5 week physiotherapy may be required. Okay, so better to surgical management should be avoided until unless it is very severe, and patient has no response of the conservative management. Only then that this management is uh, surgical management is required to the patients. And in the surgical management, one other uh, some surgeon says that this ligament, that orbicular ligament which connects the medial part of the lateral part of the ulna to the medial part, medial part of the radius. This is the radius, this is the this is the radius, and this is the ulna, and this is the epicondyle. So this is the ligament connects that this part of the radius to this part of ulna. So this orbicular ligament is sometimes also responsible for that pain in the uh, elbow joint. That this may also produce the tennis elbow condition. So in that condition, just open and resect this orbicular ligament longitudinally, and remove that tissue, and just causing some lengthening of the tissue by the longitudinal incisions, means that ligament should be incised so that it get that the fiber of the ligament get relaxed. So that conditions may that surgery also is helpful in the condition of that tennis elbow. So these are two surgical operations, one on the epicondyle and one on the orbicular ligament. These two surgeries may be advised to the patients of the tennis elbow only when the conservative management is not responsive, means that patient not respond to the conservative management. So next condition is the ganglion. Ganglion is also at that decide that the disease of the ligaments or the tendons. This is the localized tense cystic swelling. Uh, Usually that swelling can cystic, but it is not tumor. It is not any cancer. That lump is only purely cystic, and it contains the white color, the transparent gelatinous substance. So that may be appear due to the chronic inflammation over the seat of the tendon, or sometime any it may connected to any nearby the joint capsule. So there is the cystic lesion collects the gelatinous material which may connect which may have connection with the nearby joints, either either only the collection of fluid in the sheath of the tendon. You know, the tendons muscles ends with a tendon and then attached to any bone part. So where it attached to any bone part, so that tendons have a sheath. So sometimes it degenerative changes the sheath, causing some exudation of the white gelatinous fluid that may collect over in the sheath, that may present a ganglion. Sometimes some bursa may be trauma or get inflamed, or sometimes spontaneous that any bursa. You know the bursa are the soft pad like structures which present in between the two muscles, or the in between muscles and bone, or between two tendons, or the in the tendons and the muscles. So you know the bursa. So that bursa, after getting inflamed by the trauma or some due to degeneration, there is a collection of the gelatinous material. That is the that condition is called the ganglion. The common site of the ganglion is at the elbow joint. Elbow joint, the dorsal aspect of the elbow joint. It may also present at the palmar aspect. It may also present in the flexor aspect of the fingers. It may also present in the palm, or it may also present at the dorsum of the foot also. So these are the few sites where that this ganglion will present. But the most common site of the ganglion is the dorsum of the wrist. If you have if any patient comes with a swelling at the dorsum of the wrist, you then your first your diagnosis should be the ganglion. Usually that swelling is painless. There is no pain until unless it attain very big size and causes the pressure effect on the nearby structure. It may compress the nearby nerve. So that symptoms may be appear. Either it gets secondary infected and suppuration may happen. So that may only in that condition the pain or inflammation may be there. Otherwise it is thus the cosmetic disfigurement and the swelling is the only features which present, which bother to the patient to come to the doctor to that conditions. Okay, so we already discussed the common side. The clinical features, this only usually presents in the young patients, in the actual common in the both male and females. The common presentation is the painless lump. It is painful and the present in the flexor aspect of the finger. Okay, when this causes the it attain the size and restricted the movement, only in that condition that may be the painful. When you examine, when you do examine, so the condition on the history patient says it's gradually progressive conditions, not suddenly appear. Progressive swelling, that is the non-tender, and when you examine that fluctuation test may be the positive. So this is the cystic lesion, non-tender, having fluctuations and blood well defined, a smooth margin. It is mobile, slightly mobile in that vertical angle of the axis of the tendon. Means if the tendon is suppose here the tendon is like that now, so the swelling is moving in this condition, this direction, not in this direction. When you make taut is the tendon, then very difficult to movement of the patient. Okay, when the muscles or tendon is relaxed, then there is a slight movement in the vertical angle of the axis of the tendon, not in the axis of that tendon. So because this is the collection of that fluid inside the sheath of the tendon, so it horizontally it little move, but what that in the axis of the tendon it is not movable. So if the you make taut the tendon, then it is the not mobile, and that swelling may be the fixed. So these are the few features. uh, the treatment includes the conservative management. Conservative management is that one treatment is very popular in the western countries, that is called the Bible treatment. Means just put the hand, as you can see in the picture, at the edge of the table. Ask the patient to put his hand at the edge of the, suppose this is the table, ask the patient to put hand on the edge of the table, so that make the prominent of that swelling, and then other person hit the swelling with the Bible. That is called the Bible treatment, because they are hitting by the Bible. So some religious things also there, but the more that motive behind this is, with a sudden strike with a heavy book or heavy material, that causes the rupture of the cyst and the fluid disperse nearby, so the swelling disappear at sudden. That procedure may be the painful also, because that high the pressure is required to rupture the cyst, and later on, but later on recurrence may happen. So nowadays this Bible treatment is not advised in the patient. The other treatment, that is conservative treatment, includes that injection therapy. In the injection therapy, what we do, we just aspirate a large bore needle and connect to the syringe and insert in that insert in the cyst and aspirate the complete gelatinous material as much as can possible, and then some exclusion solution can be pushed inside the swelling. So that important thing is that when you do this procedure, make all the pre-operative procedures, and then when you insert this needle with that an empty syringe, you insert the needle in that ganglion, that cystic lesion, and just start aspirating. When you aspirate the gelatinous material, it is very thick material. That's why large bore needle is required. After that aspiration, don't remove your needle from the cyst. Just keep needle inside and disconnect the needle from the syringe. Take out another syringe having that sclerogen material, any material, sclerogen material in the hemorrhoids, or the simple hydrocortisone. Steroid also may be used in this condition. You just take the solution or the steroid or the this sclerogen solution, 5% phenol with almond oil. You just connect this syringe with that needle, and without removing needle from the swelling, you just push that material inside that the cyst. If why I'm saying don't remove your needle, because if once you remove the needle, then because the cyst is now collapsed, so if you once remove your needle, you cannot enter again into the cyst. You have to, you will pour your solution outside, anywhere in the outside the anywhere in the tissue, so that wherever the required tissue, you will not able to supply your solution, that materials, the solution or the medicine at the exact site, so that causes the recurrence. If you just push that material inside that cystic region, then one or two setting may require, that causes the complete that collapse and the fibrosis of that cystic swelling, so that it is that it can be treated by this conservative management also. If the conservative management is not responsive, means patient not responsive to the conservative management, and swelling attain a big size and causes the pressure symptoms, causes the pain or the suppuration, or that compression of the nerve, so that some neurological features may appear in the patients, that numbness in the hand or sometime something. So in that condition, the surgical management is required. So this is the direct opening of the that cyst, open the tendon, and complete excision of the cyst without rupture. That is very essential. If you rupture the cyst, then very difficult to find the wall of the cyst. So complete excision is the only treatment. Okay. But after excision, that material, the whatever you excise material, the specimen should be shared into the pathology to see any kind of the neoplastic changes, because in few condition neoplastic changes may happen. So if you are do surgery, then that the specimen must be sent to the pathology. So this is the surgical management. Just open and separate the tissue from the other surrounding tissue, and you see when you see the cyst, then separate it and excise it completely. Don't leave any part behind. If you leave any part, any wall of any part of that cyst behind, then that recurrence may happen. So here we have finished these two conditions.